you watch sports for that reason. You watch the hometown team to make sure your guys win, right? You're rooting for your team. But when you watch two teams in a nationally televised game, you don't really have a rooting interest. You're watching to feel something. That type of play is the type of play you remember. Gets you up out of your seat.
It's like people who like to watch horror movies. Like they like to be scared or upset. I don't like horror movies, and as a cornerback, I don't like watching this. It is despicable and disgusting, and we should be ashamed of ourselves as a network. We're doing this like we did that Myles Garrett clip where we just keep showing it, and everybody's getting like, oh, look at this. Isn't this terrible? I'm sick of it. It's just unfair.
Hey, all I know is whenever you see a play in football that makes Molly bring back Ludacris and get out the way, then you know it's uncalled for, bro. You know that he did entirely too much. And Max may be like a guy who's thinking to himself, hey, I love this. This is why I'm watching it. It's because he never had to stand in front of dudes like that and understand that in those 5 yards, when you're running up to a dude that looks like Derrick Henry, you're thinking to yourself, okay, how am I going to make this happen? What am I going to do? And Dom said it earlier. You need to run full speed, shoot at one of those kneecaps, and hope one or two things happen. One, he jumps over you and fall. Two, you clip a leg and he trips up. Because other than that, you end up being on a highlight film, barrel rolling like you missed study hall in college. And that's nothing nobody wants.
Josh Norman is a former All-Pro.
All I can say
is a good football player. We should stop doing this to him.
All I can say is people have talked a lot about brain damage in the NFL and how it can cause that stuff and everything. And not for people who have no other option or the options are limited, but for two intelligent people like yourselves, I would say you needed some brain damage before you put on the uniform, even to get on the field and do that stuff.
Max, you like boxing. You're a boxing guy.
Right.
You like to see people get knocked out like that. It's not fun. Sorry, Molly.
No, you're all good. Let me just say this, Rye, I'm glad that you got my Luda reference, but I think it might just prove that we're both getting old. That's all I got to say with that one, right?
I'm 41.
That's where my mind
Great
went,
album,
right? Max, talk to me about this, though. What did Tennessee prove? Because this Bills team's real legit. They were undefeated, and they just put the smack down on them. And they, as I mentioned earlier, it was a funky week. You know, they weren't even in the building like normal.
You know, what I was thinking about after, first of all, I was a little bit like Tennessee's coming off a bye. And and whether or not the players that they organized to practice and that made it worse or not, you can at least correlate it. Like there's an outbreak, they didn't socially distance after they were told to, and then they got more time off. And you could talk about whatever you want. They didn't get to practice, and it's a disadvantage. They look like a well-rested team to me. I know they're going up against a team, you know, with a banged-up secondary and some guys missing, but still. But what I took away in terms of the actual play, like the thought I had watching the game is, Tannehill's underrated. You know, I understand a lot of it depends on coaching, and that's true for, you know, very few players I think would be great independent of coaching. I think Tom Brady would have been great wherever he went, but the fact that he had Belichick made him the GOAT. You know, Aaron Rodgers would have been great with whoever he was. Most guys need the coaching, right? In order to really stand out from the pack, and maybe that was Tannehill, because he looked like a bust after a bunch of years. And right now, guys, what he has, 9 throwing touchdowns, like 9 passing touchdowns, and so it's 10 touchdowns altogether to a single interception this season for a team that's 4-0. And he had a real good QBR last year, but it's elite this year. It's a small sample size, it's true. They're at the quarter pole now in terms of games played. But even if you think, well, Tannehill's really a middle of the quarterback, a pack kind of quarterback, in a good coaching situation on a good team with a good running game, and now maybe a good defense, and we saw that last year also. Well, okay, but those things like benefit the quarterback. It helps make that guy better. Tannehill is really good and doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion.
He gets plenty of credit. See, I was ready to come on here and us all celebrate the Titans, but then you went a little too far by saying Tannehill is underrated. Like, they just paid him, and we're celebrating him every week. You're acting like he is a difference maker. You just said that he's not the guy. I mean, he is a difference maker on that team, but he's not the type of guy that can overcome coaching. I think that he has been really good if you control his stats for play action, which is largely based on the fact that they have a dominant rushing attack. Then his stats change a bit. And last night, I can understand maybe pointing to the Ravens playoff game from last year and celebrating Tannehill. But last night, to me, wasn't about Tannehill. He had less than 200 yards of rushing. Last night was about that Titans defense, which they've been up and down. I didn't think they had what they did last night in them against a very, very impressive Bills offense. They really shut them down, created turnovers, created a short field for Tannehill in that offense. I leave that game thinking that their defense proved something, their coaching staff proved something, that they were able to get those guys focused despite the fact that everything is going on. Just unprecedented circumstances are taking place in their locker room and in the NFL. Some of it is their fault, but I left seeing Tannehill lower on the list of things that I was impressed by and lower on the list of people or units that proved something last night. Tannehill wasn't that guy. The one quarterback from that game that I kind of left feeling more encouraged by was Allen, because whenever they lose, the Bills lost in the past couple years, it was because of Josh Allen, and most of their wins until this season were because of that defense. That game last night, it felt like Josh Allen did his part.
Don't do that.
What? Go ahead.
Don't do that. See,
tell me why I'm wrong.
This is what you're doing. You're my guy. I'm not gonna tell you why you're wrong. We're gonna have a conversation. You're doing what football people do, right? Because this is what I've done with the Tennessee Titans. I've been anti-Max Kellerman, anti-analytics, anti-Warren Sharp, all that. I've just been using these, and in using these and looking at them, they don't look the part. But then when you start going to the stat sheet and you say, okay, 11-3 since Tannehill's been starting, 2-1 in the playoffs, AFC championship contenders or AFC championship members versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And you start thinking about those things. If this were another team, if this were a quarterback that didn't play for Adam Gase early on in his career, we would see them differently.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.